I guess the first thing I'll ask you is, how did you come about this story that seems to be so indicative of so many of the contemporary and historical problems that exist here in America?
Well, if you know my other films, normally I try to stay away from stories that are too personal and that are too specific. But this particular story was so extraordinarily touching to everything that we know about this country, about the origin of this country, and about the problems that still exist today. So I was approached by ProPublica, Amazon, and Juvie Production, Viola Davis' company.
Yeah.
And in fact, they wanted me to produce the film. And I saw the material, I spoke with everybody. Lizzie Presser article, which is an incredible piece of journalism. And I visit the family as well. And at that point, I saw that what kind of story that could be. And then I decided to direct it as well.
Yeah. So we talked backstage, and I told you that when I watched the film, I was struck by how it so uniquely captures American inequity, the carceral system, and the way these men were put in jail, capitalism in terms of the way that this family's land and their legacy and their history was used as just another tool to enrich some other country, some other company, should I say. So much going wrong for the family, but the power of the family is in the fact that they are so loving and so close. What did you learn about the Reels family while you were making the film?
Well, when I met them, I think that's one of the things that really pushed me to do the movie. It was the fact that they have been fighting for decades. It's not just a fight of a few years. It started way before, when Kim, one of the women, she was in school when the problem started, as she says. So this incredible vigor and resilience of this family was something that throughout carried not only me, but everybody involved in that story and the family itself. And they are incredible characters. Mammy is funny, she's intelligent, she understands precisely very complex economical process, because she gives you, when she said, what's going to happen to us black people, and then she corrects herself, us poor people.
Yeah.
That's a class analysis right there. So it's incredible, the amount of concentrated stories beyond that family real story that are in this film.
I like to go into movies like not knowing anything, right? Except for my Marvel movies, and I got to read like 5 or 6 back issues of comic books and all of that stuff. But for this one, I didn't deep dive anything about it, especially for a documentary. I want to be open to learn. And something interesting happened in me doing that. I couldn't tell at first where this was happening, like where this was taking place, like what part of the South. My own family, my great-grandfather, we lost all of our land because of heirs property. So I'm thinking, are we in Mississippi? Are we, where are we? Especially, she goes, I'm from Louisiana. She goes, oh, we used to come down from New Orleans. And I'm like, oh man, maybe this is, I might know these people. It's such a familiar story. Yet the loss of land that African Americans, particularly the descendants of slaves here, have gone through, it's so underreported and not talked about. We don't really have these types of conversations. Why do you think that is, and what did you yourself learn about that through making the film?
Well, I think one of the reasons is that it's profoundly traumatic. Since the film have started to be screened, I met a lot of people who, in the Q&A afterwards were saying they just realized the same way you also realize, I have the same problem in my family. And sometimes it's 1, 2, or 3 generations back, but we all basically come from somewhere.
Yeah.
So that the story is not so told is because a lot of those community keep the story for themselves. It's not something, like the Reels family. They are very isolated in Mermont, in Carteret County. A family, resisting a whole power structure. Again, we were saying, the lawyers know each other, the judges know each other, the mayors, the promoters. It's a small crowd. So it's really traumatic for the family to really try to go beyond, and it's usually the same case for many other families. That stay. It's a shame sometimes for the family themselves that they find themselves in that situation.
Yeah.
They feel deprived of anything, even of their citizenship. Yeah. So I want to say the last 2 years I've seen a lot of articles coming out on the subject everywhere in this nation, and many other minorities, and so I do hope that it's coming out now, the same way people can recognize, well, it's not only me, it's not only my family, and many individuals also bury that memory very far away because it's traumatic. It's something like it's a sort of being raped or stole from who you are because it's your identity as well. So it's not easy sometimes to go back to that, and sometimes parents are just ashamed that happened to them because they couldn't keep whatever their ancestor left for them.
Yeah, that pain, that trauma. The documentary does a good job of mixing what you shot with what they shot with other footage that came from news sources and things like that. Tell us a little bit about the production of it, how long you were with them, what you were able to put together. There's also a lot of art that goes into it. You guys use some painting in there, some illustration. It was very creatively done and very immersive for the audience. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, the big ordeal was not ordeal. Complication was to make out of an incredible research object thematic out of many different people and many a long process of multiple decades to make a film out of it. And I didn't want to make the usual informative documentary or journalistic documentary. I always try, no matter the subject, to make a real film. So first of all, I had what I consider archive. Those are the incredible hours of material that was shot by Lizzie and her team. They spent a lot of time with the family. You can see, you don't feel the camera. They're just there. They go about their lives. They go about their pain and their joy, their parties. And so that material that went over at least three years, I considered it like the core archive of the project. So that even before I start shooting, I work with my editor, Alexandra Strauss, about, okay, what do we choose and under what angle do we choose, what we want to keep. And I had make several important decisions. One was that I wanted the family to tell the story. And I would not do what usually is asked for that kind of documentary, is to show both sides. For me, there were no both sides.
Tell me what you mean by that. What would have been the other side to show?
Go to the mayor, go to the company that bought the land and have a sort of dialogue or contradictory dialogue. For me, it's the usual story. Why would I have spent, an hour and a half of precious movie time into showing again and again the same people who have the power of language, who have the power of telling their own story for decades since cinema exists. So for me, it was giving the whole podium to the Reels family. Let them tell their story with their own words, with their own humor, with their own pain, and don't bother about what other people think, or what is the real issue behind that? Why is this promoter insisting after years and years to get that piece of land with which he cannot do anything, by the way, you know?
Yeah.
And so that was an artistic choice and a political choice, you know, and to choose the two women to tell the story. So once I had that, what I did, I extract about 40 minutes of archive, what I call archive, that I thought, okay, that's the story. And then so when I went to shoot, I could exactly shoot what I wanted to finish the movie. You know, like spend more time with Mammy, spend more time with like Curtis, with the two men, spend more time with Kim, and which is different. Normally, in such a documentary, you go and try to shoot everything the longest possible, and then you create your narration on the editing table. Here, that was a different process. The inquiry, Lizzie's inquiry was, you know, incredibly precise and perfect, and so I felt I was protected by that. You know, I didn't have to inquire myself about the other side, what I call the other side. I could have gone and interrogated the sheriff.
Yeah.
You know, but for me, it would have been another film. We have seen that before. You know, so it was hard to stick with it, but that's what I wanted to do. And when I shot, and I could shoot in very precise timeline, I could go for 10 days, but because I knew exactly what I was going to get. You know, I knew I have to spend at least 1 or 2 days with Melvin in the forest.
Yeah.
Because that's where he lives, that's where he breathes, etc.
Right.
I knew I would have to spend more time with Le Curtis because he's not very talkative. He doesn't speak a lot. He's, you know, it's like this traumatic thing is in his head all the time. And so I knew I have to catch him at a moment where he will really feel comfortable with me.
Right.
And so I did his interview very late, maybe the day before I stopped. So yeah, so it was precisely a film where I knew exactly what I needed to tell a film, and also what you call the drawings. You know, I needed to give them some sort of nobility, you know, and make them inside a narrative, not a news story.
Right.
You know, it was about the life of real people. So I had to use all the tools I know in my craft to make sure that it's much more than that. It's a film that you can watch another time. You know, so it has to be a film,
Right.
not a report.
Right. The film, I also mentioned to you, the film is inciting. It gets your dander up. Just be honest with you, excuse my language, it pissed me off, right? And I think it gets to one point in the movie where Billy is about to go confront the men that are essentially ripping his family's legacy down. And it's such a poignant part of the movie because with where we are right now, we know what a confrontation with law enforcement can produce. We've seen it. And I'm watching, and I hear the voice of the black woman say, "Don't go over there, don't go over there." And I see him do it anyway. And I'm torn in that moment because I both don't want him to go and I do want him to go. Being that people will be incited by the movie and they will be enraged by what this family was put through, what do you want them to do after they've seen the film? If there was a call to action that came from it, what would you want that to be?
Well, there are several things, and by the way, I always say for the film I try to make, these films are always the beginning of something. They are not. I don't make produce that you can just consume and forget about it. It's if they are well made, they should push something. You know, that you as individual and eventually collectively. You know, In that case, look at your own family, by example. Ask your parents, ask your siblings, where do we come from? What is our story? And what does our story play today? What role it plays? And second, of course, we try to activate organizations who have been working for decades on that very particular subject. We have a website on Amazon that explain all the things you can do toward make those problems better. There will be a farm bill 2023, and we hope that Congress will, by example, renew the money that was voted to help clear titles for health family in particular, and even expand that program because it's national. So and call your congressman, make sure that there is even more effort to be done. But it's an uphill battle. You probably know the story of the black farmers where Congress did vote money for specifically help black farmers who are most of the time don't get after a hurricane or after any type of natural disaster, don't easily have access to money. Sometimes because their paperwork is not in what the conditionalities are made so that they don't really have access to it, and they basically renounce to that money because the thing that they would need to do is absolutely impossible. So there are all sort of activities, and we are trying through that website as well to give addresses, contacts, and that it becomes a place where people can gather and collectively decide for actions.
So the film's narrative is both told through what's happening to the Reels family and through the family itself. I mean, we start off with this amazing matriarch, and she's having her 95th birthday. Then we go back past her, and we go all the way back, right, till 1866. And by the end of it, we doing the WAP, and the kids is nay-naying, and we having fun at the family reunion. So we essentially tell 3-4 generations of stories, and not just of a family, but of a trade in terms of people who are out on the water. What do you think the future of the Reels family is?
Well, they have been through the worst already, so
right.
I think they will survive, and they are organizing themselves, and we are helping them also get the proper help and expertise to make sure that the rest of the land that they have will be secure and that they can clear all of their titles. So that's the good thing about the film. But I think more importantly for them, I realized that late in the process that so we did a screening for the family for the 7 of them in Raleigh. We organized a screening room for them because I wanted them to see the film before I make picture lock. That was the minimum I could do. And at the end, we went to lunch, and Mommy, one thing she said, now I feel lighter because I will not be the only one to have to tell that story. So I understood how important for them it was, why they welcome us that many times and open their doors for us. They give us their whole intimacy, their pain, and that was their goal, to make sure that they can break away from that little bubble in Merriman County, and so that's one of the things that I think the film brings. It's for them to feel that they are in a bigger collective. It's not their only little case. But you touched to something about how the film started and finished. One of the things that we are, a lot of documentaries are fighting right now is about, the almost obligation to tell the whole story the first 2-3 minutes of a documentary.
Expound on that. What do you mean?
Well, because we are in a world of subscriber and people are always afraid that you're gonna go to the next channel.
Oh, we're talking about
And
tech yeah.
and at the
that's-
beginning,
yeah,
you
sure.
basically have a trailer at the beginning of your film. And in that sense, for this particular film, is almost as you asked me to, you need to say who those black people are. Are they victim or criminal? I mean, I'm caricaturing a bit, but that's bottom line what it means. And I say, no, this film, we need to spend time with the family first. We need to feel them as human beings and not as a case, not as you know, as criminal or angry black man or victims. So it was important to spend time with them the same way I spent time with them to understand them and to feel like Gertrude could be my grandmother. You know, Le Curtis, they could be my uncle. I have a lot of uncles like this, you know. And so we needed to spend time with them before the drama comes. Because the drama is just a moment in their life. It doesn't explain who they are. It doesn't explain their story. Their story is bigger than that. So I had to continue toward the end, where typically you would have a happy ending when they get out of prison. So you would have a beautiful story about two men that unjustly went to prison for 8 years. But that was not the film. The core of the film is the whole saga of a family. And their life will continue. You know, and that's important. You know, that's why the film dragged to the ultimate, you know, the party, the you know, and the kids, the next generation. It was important to understand the link. You know, it's not just a particular moment in their life; it's their whole life.
Yeah. One last thing about the family. Then I'll ask you just a grander scheme of things. You know, there is a we talked about some of the familiarity I have with the story. Like all my family is buried in the same cemetery in Maryland, Louisiana. Everyone, just like them, same one. Like you can start where my father's buried and go all the way to the back, and by the time you get to the back, you're in slavery times. And there's this honoring of our ancestors that we talk about a lot, but that is actually like practiced every single day still by black families in the deep and rural South and around other parts of that tradition of deep reverence for those who came before you and about something being bigger than what you are or bigger than TikTok or bigger than Twitter or bigger than any of those things. Family and the bonds that family means are things that are not really explored when it deals with black people in a lot of popular culture, television, movies, things like that. This is a powerful depiction of that. Did you have that on your mind as you were making this? This is about a black family that stayed together, loves being together, and is existing for one another.
Well, it's even go further than that. It's the ultimate proof that you've been on that land for a long time. Is that, you know, they have 3 different cemeteries. You know, it's like on a space of 150, 160 years. So what other proof you need? You know, the grandmother Gertrude was born on that land. She's 96 today. You know, so
96. Give it up for Gertrude, you guys. She's sticking around.
And so it's important to also have that continuity. You know, why is that traumatic? It's also because deep down we suspect that we come from somewhere. We suspect that land is the sort of DNA of this country. You know, what we shouldn't forget, you know, the way the history of this country is told is like sometimes a few pilgrims came and they were innocent and they found a land that was empty and they made something out of it. And that right there is the biggest lie of the whole story. You know, first of all, the origin inhabitant, they need not say that land belongs to them. This is a European concept, that comes with private property. So not only the land was stolen, but you brought a new concept that you could, in fact, own land. That you can, land is a commodity. You can buy it, you can sell it, and then you added another one. You could own people, and you use those people to work on that stolen land. And what bugs me all the time is how come that clear evidence is never mentioned, in the whole history of this country. It's like the original sin. And on the other hand, you project and sell an idea of purity. And that's James Baldwin have written extensively
of
about
course,
that.
yeah.
And that's this incredible contradiction. Land is so important, even when we live in majority in cities nowadays, but you see the process with gentrification is the same. And the instruments are the same, taxes, law, reglementation, power structures, they're all the same. And how to deprive people who have less power from whatever they have in terms of land, because land means also economical stability. It means also wealth and the capacity to give wealth to the next generation. And all that, in particular the black population, have been deprived of it. Each time there were even laws voted, the whole homestead laws, were so redacted that the conditionality could not be fulfilled by the former enslaved, and it continued till today. So you can see, and you call it a capitalist structure, but that's exactly what it is. The whole structure and infrastructure is built to have the results that we have today.
Last question for you, and it's about you yourself. I've seen your documentaries. You take on a lot of weighty stuff. Are you planning to take a doc off? Are you going to do like Raoul Peck's A History of Ice Cream? Or you do one about kittens, puppies, rainbows or something? Because it's a lot on you, brother, with a lot of the things. You take on the big fights. How do you keep the energy to do it?
Well, I would say it's simple in the sense that I came to cinema through politics. Cinema was always for me a means to fight, a means to tell the more profound story. The only thing I didn't think that there was a contradiction between telling reality and entertainment. I think there is a way, as any artist, you write a book or you paint a picture or whatever, there is a way to talk about reality and about your history, about where you come from, in a way that are still you can enjoy watching or you can have anger watching. But the idea is to create something that can help us individually and collectively to do better or to repair what have been done wrong. So yes, I tend to, each one of my films, I always consider them the last one. So I make sure that I put everything in them. I don't know if you saw Exterminate All the Brutes.
Yes, of course.
For me, thank you. I thought, not only I would never make a film in this city, but that I could have eventually lost my green card. So
right.
it was because the film touched to the DNA of that country, what I tried to explain a few minutes ago. And that's a story that nobody wants to hear. That the United States doesn't come out of nowhere. It's European imperialism that came and landed here with all the consequence. So this is the heritage of the whole century of European imperialism and racism as well. You know? So we cannot just cut part of the history and only keep what we want to keep. You know? So my job is to clear that up and make it understandable and clear, because in fact it's very clear.
Right. Well, we are on Amazon October 13th. October 13th.
October 13th in theater.
October 13th in theaters.
October 20th on Amazon.
Amazon. So you guys, when you're watching Invincible or The Boys or Gen V, you're on there. Click on Amazon, and you guys are now all
And watch it on the theater as well.
watching the theater as well.
It's more pleasant as well.
So tell all your friends, tell everybody out there what a spectacular documentary this is. Give it up for our Raoul Peck one more time.
Thank you.
The movie is Silver Dollar Road. Thanks for joining us today.